Well, a very good evening and welcome to this edition of Breeding to Win. It's Super Stallion Showtime. We're going to be having this whole show and next week's show will be dedicated to highlighting some of the top stallions that South Africa has to offer. And obviously quite a few of them are key sponsors on the show. We look forward to bringing exactly their highlights and what we've got to look forward coming up in the new breeding season. Let's start straight away and we're going to kick off with Lancaster Bomber. Now Lancaster Bomber is a new sire. He's standing out at Drakensberg Stud. Kevin Somerville and Gaynor Rupert and the team, they highlighted him at the Drakensberg Stallion Day. He does look to be a very, very useful racehorse, and I'm sure he's been well subscribed with shareholders and he looks to have a very bright future ahead of him. Let's start straight away with Lancaster Bomber.
Never before will a horse get as so much support as this horse is going to get in his first crop. This is Lancaster Bomber. Blessed with incredible toughness and durability. Lancaster Bomber is by an emerging sire of sires in Warfront. Sire of already 75 stakes winners. He already has 10 sires at stud. He won or placed in 8 Group 1s, including the Dewhurst Stakes at 2, the St James's Palace Stakes, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, the Breeders' Cup Mile, and won the Tattersalls Gold Cup, in which he defeated Defoe, who went on to win the Coronation Stakes the year after. Lancaster Bomber is extremely well syndicated, and his book is full for 2019.
In life, timing is everything. Introducing Lancaster Bomber. The pride of British military might. In an illustrious career, he defeated 23 individual Group 1 winners. His kill count decorated on the side of the Bomber includes the winner of the 2000 Guineas, the Kingstand Stakes, the Dubai World Cup, the Coronation Stakes, the Sussex Stakes, the Queen Anne, the July Cup, and the Racing Post Trophy. The Bomber has landed. The time is now.
Well, stable companion to Lancaster Bomber is Duke of Marmalade. Now we all know the Duke. He's been a prolific sire. He's had a number of stake successes during the course of the last couple of seasons. And what the trainers do say are that they're really workmanlike horses. Let's find out more about Stallion Duke of Marmalade.
The magnificent Duke of Marmalade certainly needs no introduction to South African breeders and also European breeders. And what a start to his South African career he's had. Duke is currently the leading sire of 3-year-old stakes winners, 6. He has 3 more than any other active sire currently in South Africa. How could we possibly have asked for a better start to his stallion career? And what's exciting, his second and third crops are even bigger than his first crop. So better things to come for Duke of Marmalade.
I remember the day he arrived. A powerful, noble creature with a steady gaze. They told me he was the last great son of the king of all stallions, and that his mother carried the blood of royalty. They said he was once the very best racehorse in all of England, Ireland, and France, and that he was the conqueror of giants. They said he was one of the best stallions in the whole of Europe and the father of many winners. I heard them say he is one of the greatest stallions to ever step foot in Africa. They called him Magnificent. I called him the Duke.
Well, next up, also from Drakenstein Stud, is Futura. Now, what a prolific racehorse he was. He was a multiple Group 1 winner, and he was one of those horses that you really couldn't leave out of any permutation. Now he's at stud. He's got his first crop of babies, almost nearing sale and race time. And you've got to think that Futura has got a very bright future in front of him. He's by Dynasty. We all know what Dynasty has done. He's been one of the stalwarts of the breeding industry for so long. Futura, with his racing ability, with his good looks, and with his parental power, he looks set to have a great season ahead of him. We bring you Futura.
Beach Beauty Champions Cup. Now Futura starts to warm up, and Futura's coming home starting now. Futura will win the Beach Beauty Champions Cup.
Futura gets driven into the lead. Futura with 100 meters left to go. Futura beats Louis the King. 300 meters left to go. Futura is coming home full of running between runners. It's Futura. Futura wins the German event.
Ice Machine gets the wake-up call. Futura's on the inside. Ice Machine and Futura. Futura digs in.
Well, champion freshman sire of last season is captain of all. He's the son of Captain Al. He was a multiple Group 1 winner over the sprint trip. He's out of a Fard mare. Was bred out at Duncan Barry's Riverton farm. And you've got to think that with that really good first season behind him, he can only go from strength to strength. We find out more about the freshman sire of 2018-19, and that's captain of all.
Listen, I've got a couple. I'm very, very happy. I've got a half-sister to that horse, Priceless Ruler, that won on the weekend, belonging to the Kiesvetters. I've got a colt for Dave Shaw that actually he didn't buy him for me, but Jilly and I had given him 2 stars. Very nice horse. And Jill and Pete Demarini's little filly ran 3rd the other day. Very happy. Looking for a bit further. You can tell Johnny, at this stage, I'm very happy with him.
What you are is really, really honest filly out of captain of all. I've had the chance to ride her a few times now. She was very, very unlucky in the Allen Robertson Group 1 where she got turned sideways the last 150 meters at such a vital stage of the race, and I honestly believe that she could have won that race. She won her next start very, very easy, and her last start in the Group 2 moved through the field really easy in my hands. She's a very nice filly, and just got touched off. She got beat half a length by the stable companion, which they did think that was a very nice filly. So yeah, she's a filly that's done really well, and nice big action for us. Not a very big filly, but very well put together filly, and really easy to ride. I think she's a filly that could get away with a mile, but I think her best distance is probably a 12 or 14 at the moment, but she's obviously going to go for a stab at that mile on Gold Cup Day, and we'll see how she goes there.
I was in my early 20s, I think, when the first Al Muftis got to the sales ring, when I was walking around there with my dad and, you know, seeing them. And obviously the old man bought a hell of a bunch of them, you know, in his first season. So they've made a huge impression on me and the way, you know, in which I look at horses. And Al Mufti stamped them through Captain Al. I mean, the Captain Al's look very much like the Al Muftis. And I see exactly the same type of shape in the Captain of Alls. You know, I mean, we've been lucky to, I think we secured 5 of them in his first season, of which a couple hasn't run yet, but obviously we've had great success with What You Are and Captain Morgan. We've gone back and invested heavily again this season. So I think we got 4 or 5 of them from sales so far this year. I think really in the mold of Al Mufti. It doesn't look like he throws his leg. You know, he throws a perfectly conformed horse with great shape, great athleticism, and very, very good balance. Look, I think he'll just build on his first season. He's having a cracking first season, so it can only build from here. And I think you know the quality of mare he'll get will just improve as it goes. I really think that Al Mufti legacy is shining through and through all of them, you know.
Well, the only son of Tappet to stand here in the Southern Hemisphere would be Coup de Gras. His yearlings have sold remarkably well. He looks set to have a very good first crop of juvenile runners, and word from the trainers is that they do look to be precocious. They do look set to come out early, and I do think that he'll make his name fairly quickly as a young precocious sire. Coup de Gras is by Tappet. He's owned in partnership with Gainsway and also Highland Ridgemont, and we look forward to another very successful season with Coup de Gras.
Coup de Gras, he had magnificent books in his first 2 crops. His first crop sold extremely well, averaged over 200,000 Rand, and he's also in most of the big studs around the country. He stamps his stock. He throws a lot of chestnuts with a lot of white, and they look extremely fast. So we're really, really excited about his first 2-year-olds coming out next year. Coup de Gras, he's by Tappet, and as you all know, Tappet, one of the great stallions of all time. And it's been very interesting because we've got quite a few international clients on the farm, and they are choosing the Tappets and the Uncle Mo's and those kind of stallions. So it's truly great to have a stallion of this caliber, and it's wonderful to have the Richmond Highland boys with us, and Anthony Beck, that's also part of this horse.
If he throws anything like he looks, it's going to be very good for us. So we're very excited to see how they run, and clearly he has the speed in him. And for us, especially in this industry, in this country, we feel that we need more speed. You know, there's a lot of classics out there, and for us to have more speed is important, and we're banking on him to be the guy for us.
Well, not only do we have a son of Tappet standing here in South Africa, we also have a son of Uncle Mo, and that's Royal Mo. We brought you a bit of a highlight sequence last week as well, and a couple of his foals now on the ground, and word from the breeders that have seen the foals, very encouraging indeed. Now, he's a beautiful, big, imposing son of Uncle Mo. He's called Royal Mo, and we find out more.
A horse gallops with his lungs, perseveres with his heart, and wins with his character. We all have a dream of possibilities, a dream of an exhilarating adventure. To watch a dream unfold while defeating adversity is only achieved by the great. From a young colt, Royal Mo's potential needed little explanation. As his racing career took flight, tragedy struck when he fractured his sesamoid, and both horse and jockey, in a time of calamity, stayed steady and calm, which ultimately changed his fate. After surgery, a sensible and intelligent Royal Mo made a remarkable recovery. Now there was a new vision, a new dream. After being robbed from his full potential as a racehorse, Royal Mo was put into quarantine, being a lengthy ordeal before embarking on his journey to South Africa. Stepping into his career as a sire at Klavervlei Stud, he came into his stride, showing the courage of a true champion. With his first foals at foot in 2019, the future looks exciting. Now, standing at the threshold to make it as a sire, the future belongs to those who dare. We invite you to join us on this journey. A horse gallops with his lungs, perseveres with his heart, and wins with his character.
One of the best horses to stand pedigree and racing ability-wise will be Danon Platina. He's a new sire. He's out in Maritzfontein with Jessica Slack and Stephen. And I tell you what, he looks to have all the credentials you want for a young sire in South Africa. Let's find out more about the imposing grey.
Bred from a foundation family at Northern Farm, Deep Impact has made an undeniable mark on international racing in becoming a global super sire. As a 7-time Grade 1 winner, including the Japanese Triple Crown, Deep Impact has become one of the world's greatest and most commercially successful stallions. With his talented sons and daughters performing at the highest level, current statistics boast a massive 225 stakes performers, an enormous list of 113 group winners and 23 listed winners. The son of US Horse of the Year and legendary sire Sunday Silence, who is famous for his role in transforming Japanese breeding as we know it, has been champion sire in Japan 7 times. Danon Platina won 5 races, 2 of which were at 2 years old. He is out of the unraced mare Badila, a daughter of outstanding US sire Unbridled Song and Grade 1 La Brea Stakes winner Magical Allure, who was a granddaughter of Seattle Slew. The colt's biggest win in his career was the Grade 1 Asahi High Futurity Stakes, a Grade 1 contest for 2-year-olds over the mile. There was an electric pace from the jump, and the colt showed real class and courage when circling the field and running wide to win easily.
Well back is Danon Platina. Neo Lumiere is last, and Ash Gold is the second last, and Ash Gold is the last. Past the 800 metre mark, and Active Minoru starts to slow them up. Leads out from second table. Meisho Masakaze is there with Paisha of Law. In behind them, not too far away, Just Doing, and kicking up along the fence is Tagano Azagal. Tagano Espresso is there as well in behind runners, and peeling out is Bright Emblem. They've got 400 metres to run. Still in front at the moment is Active Minoru from second table, and Tagano Azagal. In between comes Clarity Sky. Clarity Sky jumping out of the ground. Also Danon Platini running on. Two of the fancies runners. Danon Platini goes up to Clarity Sky. Danon Platini fights the front, finds the front. Minoru Active fights along the inside, but it's Danon Platini. Danon Platini finds the front, starts to stretch away. Late on the scene is Amawaioli. Danon Platini wins.
From a top female line, his dam, Badila, is by Unbridled Song, a champion sire of 116 stakes winners, including champions Arrogate and Will Take Charge. Unbridled Song is also a striking grey and is significantly successful as broodmare sire in North America, finishing third on the Broodmare Sire Log in 2017. Danon Platina's sire Deep Impact has produced champions and Group 1 winners worldwide. They include the likes of Saxon Warrior, now standing at Coolmore, Study of Man, Ashin Hikari, Real Impact, now at stud at Arrowfield. He has produced champion fillies and mares too, including, amongst others, Beauty Parlour, Mickey Isle, Mickey Queen, Shannon Pandora, Vivlos, and many others. To have a champion 2-year-old of Japan by the almighty Deep Impact at stud in South Africa is an extremely exciting prospect. Danon Platina stands at Mertzfontein for a fee of $45,000 with a live foal. Danon Platina is the property of a syndicate.
Well, Flower Alley got off to a flying start with these runners. The older they got, certainly the better they got as well. He was a winner over the 2,000 metres, almost start to finish, with a 2-year-old taking on older horses. That was a massive performance as well, and Flower Alley looks set to go on from there as well. He's got a strong support base, and I do think you'll be hearing that name, Flower Alley, for many seasons to come.
Keep Smiling is lashing home at the outside. Magic School from nowhere. Keep Smiling got there at the end.
Relay also coming strongly. It's going to be close. Relay coming strongly. Relay gets up to win it for Feldflower.
Smiley Carly's coming well. So is Sacred Ibis. Virtuoso and Smiley Carly. It's getting close. It goes to Smiley Carly.
Alibi Guy, though, is putting on the pressure now. And Alibi Guy together there on the outside with Steak and Ale. But Alibi Guy has a neck advantage. And it's going to be Alibi Guy.
From Alibi Guys on the outside, but it's Liberty Hall, and Liberty Hall's going on. Liberty Hall on the outside, Tree Tumber, Alibi Guy, Shango Heartstrings, but Alibi Guy has won it.
Famanda took the lead, Extrovert second, then comes Doubled Over and Vijeta, but Famanda too good. Famanda has won.
Baybury and Midwinter, but Baybury is going on in the closing stages. Baybury draws off to win it.
and Beach Flower takes the lead from lovely Loy-Ree, and at 10-1, Beach Flower is the Lady Canterbury champion.
Aventura Stud is a farm that really has been synonymous with good stallions. Think of the likes of VAR, breeder of Variety Club in terms of his success in terms of youngsters, and Oratorio as well has been knocking amongst the best sires in the country. He's beautifully bred, he's by Danehill, and he's notched up a couple of very useful performers. Let's find out more about Oratorio.
Oratorio is making the news on a regular basis with his progeny doing so well on the racetrack, and we're lucky enough to be here at Aventura this morning. He's in the paddock behind us, and Pippa Mickelborough is going to give us a bit of an update. Morning, Pippa.
Morning, Fee. Welcome back.
Thank you. He's looking absolutely fantastic, a superb dappled coat for this time of year.
He's looking amazing and feeling well. His weight is nice and constant, and he's in good shape. Yep. Ready for action.
He's beautifully bred, isn't he? He's by Danehill, out of a vaguely noble mare. He doesn't get better than that.
And a very good racehorse and a top stallion around the world. So, you know, he deserves more recognition that maybe he's getting. But I've been around here long enough to know that, you know, we've just got to plug on and support him, and he will deliver. And as they're getting older, they definitely are winning now. Yeah.
Smashing looking horse, and obviously he ran and did so well in Ireland and France.
Yeah, and you know, if you go back to his history when he was in training with Aidan, you know, he used to say how easy this horse was to train because he just ate anything, travelled, flew, and I think that's his attribute, is his temperaments, his children, and he's easy to work with. But he himself was better as he got older, and his children around the world have been better at 4, 5 and 6 and even 7. His oldest only just turned 4, so seems like forever he's been here. But if you think about it, that first crop was 4. So now you know, he needs a big horse. He's had Van Halen obviously, which has helped us, and lots of feature and listed winners. And he's just going to have to, he's like any other stallion, he's got to just keep plugging on doing it and throwing another cracker jack. There's some lovely ones out there. We'll be very positive, and we'll keep supporting a well-syndicated horse, so he gets the support.
And that was a very special moment for you when Van Halen and Cue the Music were going head-to-head in the Grade 1 and first and second past the post.
Yes, and I hear that Cue the Music's doing really well in Hong Kong. So, you know, it's all very well when they leave the country, but you lose them, you know, and I mean, we needed that horse. But imagine if he can do well in Hong Kong, how much that'll be for us. So we'll be positive, and he's got some lovely, he had a lovely good run again. He's had some lovely winners since the season started. And I'm confident because in the complete antithesis to VAR, they need to get better as they get older, whereas VAR's up at peak at 2 and 3. This horse is 4, 5 and 6, so we've got lots to look forward to. And they're sound, strong horses. I mean, they've got good constitutions like him. I'm hoping that, you know, as they get to that strength and that age, they'll continue to do well. Yeah.
Well, he seems to be nice and consistent because, as I said, I'm seeing him in the news regularly that he's getting the winners.
Yeah, he is. You know, I think the negative for him is, and you know, let's not be naive about it, they're not selling as well as they should, but he's a typical Danehill. He can throw those small, sort of non sort of average looking horses, but doesn't mean that they can't run. So we've just got to, as breeders and vendors, we've just got to be brave and take what we get. Hopefully it's enough to keep us sustaining our businesses, and they will deliver. He obviously does now and then throw that big, strong, strapping one. I mean, we sell very well off this farm, and I don't know whether it's maybe because I choose a better mare than some of my vendors, breeders, but you know, there's some really good breeders in the syndicate, so you know, I'm not about to judge them, but we need to make sure we give him that tall, light-framed, elegant mare, because he throws strength, substance. So if you send him that small, squat mare, he's inclined to throw that. Doesn't mean they can't run, but they don't sell as well. And that's, I suppose, the thing. The trainers love them, but they're stealing them. So we as breeders have just got a fuzzbait, as they say.
I often see his progeny in the parading at the races, and I think that's an Oratorio. You know, he does stamp them nicely, though, nice and stocky, nice bone and everything about them. But temperament-wise, he's smashing, isn't he? He's taking polements from your hand, and he's loving us being here this morning.
Really kind horse and a very gentle horse, easy horse to work with. And listen, ready for the season. I think everybody, bar the top 2 or 3 stallions, the mare numbers are a bit down because there's been quite a lot of curtailment in the breeding industry. But you know, in the good old days when I started working on stud farms, 60 to 70 was full. Hopefully I'll get him to that. You know, he's been 120, 130. But I'll be positive, and let's just hope we get some nice mares coming. We've got some lovely mares booked, and let's give credit where credit's due. The syndicate has been amazing, and they've got great faith in the horse. So, and he's a well syndicated horse, so he should be fine.
Yeah, great. And he's standing for a fee of
50 at La Folle, and if you give me more than one, we'll make a deal. Because now we need to get the numbers to him. We need to continue our good work in the cell ring, and we need those babies that are out there to do well. But I mean, every day. I mean, a lovely good second yesterday, winner on Monday. It's every day if you look at him. And actually, one of the good stats for Oratorio was Visionaire just pipped him as the leading sire artificial going, and Visionaire had all those runners on that Cape and that KZN Breeders' Day where we didn't have any. But he just pipped me, and I think that's also quite a nice thing because we've got the Polly in Durban and the Polly in PE and the Sand in Kimberley, and they seem to do well on it. There's horses for courses, so that's also a great thing to remember. That whereas Vars are not good, they don't like the Polly, they don't like the Sand, they like the hard going. So there's horses for everybody.
Yeah, great. Makes Oratorio very versatile.
Very versatile horse.
Best of luck with him. Lovely to see him this morning. He looks fantastic, and I hope he just carries on going from strength to strength.
Thank
you very much, Pippa.
Thanks for coming.
Lovely to see Oratorio here this morning. He really is looking in outstanding shape. He's got a beautiful coat and he's super friendly, and we wish him well for the rest of the breeding season.
One of the very few sons of Danzig to stand at stud here in South Africa is Alado. Owned by Kirsten Rousing, a really good supporter of the South African industry, along with David Allen. Alado stands out at Hemelanada. His runners to winners ratio is very high indeed, and David Allen tells us more.
If you'd had Alado from day one, he'd be a Book One sire. So said a respected judge at the Bloodstock South Africa Mystico sale earlier this year, referring to the Alado project, managed by Allen Bloodlines and based at Hemelanada Stud, where Alado himself stands. The consignments to that sale had met with general approval, 2 proceeding to sell for double the median and 60% above it respectively. Here is a direct son of Danzig, active, fertile, and standing in the Western Cape. How many elsewhere? Warfront, hard-spun, stallion rarity, in this case by the name of Alado, supported by a program that consistently achieves strong AEPR and percentages. Being out of world champion race mare Alborada, Alado is a close-up part of one of the world's great families, created by Miss Kirsten Rousing of Lanwade, St Simon and Staffordstown studs, from the foundation mare Al Rukaba. Alado's own page has space only for Alborada and her own mini dynasty of more than a dozen black typers, with fresh performances through 2019 and continuing. You need several more pages to include Alado's second and third dams and all of the 20-plus stakes winners and 30-plus stakes placed runners in this immediate family. Miss Rousing sent Alado to South Africa and has supported him and therefore South African bloodstock breeding ever since. The kind comment about having Alado from day one referred to his start not going so well. Allen Bloodlines was brought in to steady the ship, initially with the great help of Ark-and-Seal, then based entirely at Hemelanada, where a broodmare band was convened to support Alado. That broodmare band has continuously been refreshed and upgraded to the extent that, as of July 2019, the Alado project as a whole has stakes earnings of almost 1.6 million rand in the current season, including restricted stakes, with an AEPR of 114,000. Other users of Alado, such as Oldland Stud, have bred Grade 2 winner Rocket Countdown and their current Alado double winner, Cyber Law. Independently bred Alados, such as current 3-times winners Grandiflora and Aldato, are also prominent. Admittedly, other breeders have used Alado partly because he has been conveniently located. But what is an easy trundle with a trailer south from the N2 compared to the purest opportunity to use, well, let's face it, one of the best bred stallions in the world? Especially at an intentionally low fee that you do not have to pay until 2022. More of that in a minute.
Moonbird over the last 100.
What other evidence can we show you? The Alado successes keep on coming. Here are a few of his winners in June and July only.
Pale Lilac from State Star. Cold Cash is running on, but Pale Lilac's home. Pale Lilac beats State Star.
And Axios pretty much goes from start to finish. Baby Let's Mambo lunges and finishes second. Flying Winger, who's now managed to get to the front ahead of Dan the Lad, and Flying Winger will wrap up proceedings. Mistral Rider seems to be getting the better of Gallagher, who's empty in second, and Mistral Rider from the front has gone on to win.
Attagirl's in front, Sweet Karma coming quickly at Attagirl and Sweet Karma, Attagirl has won it from Sweet Karma.
So, in these difficult times, how easy can we make it for breeders to send to a regular sire of winners whose good-looking, strong stock sell well enough relative to the market? More than can be said for many these days. The Allen Stallions pay-when-you-sell formula applies to Alado at a fee of $7,500 plus VAT, payable when you sell as a weanling in 2021 or yearling in 2022, or in utero, on a scale down to $4,875 plus VAT for multiples. Or this son of Danzig with his globally recognizable family can be had for 5,000 Rand plus VAT, live foal, on a scale down to 3,250 plus VAT for multiples. Alado means flying, or the winged one. In this market, many are taking fright, not flight. But at these fees and terms, Alado gives you wings.
It's a beautiful sunny winter's morning here, and we're at Vaughan Marshall Stable in Milnerton, and David Allen is visiting from Europe, and we don't need any introduction to Allen Bloodlines, and David is with me this morning to give us a bit of an update. David, lovely to have you in sunny Cape Town this morning.
Lovely to be here, beautiful morning.
Now, we all know what Allen Bloodlines is all about, but it's lovely to get an update and see what's going on. I know you've had quite a busy time overseas recently with lots of lovely summer racing.
Yes, it's been really a lovely summer so far, with enough rain to keep in between to keep it looking beautiful.
And you've got syndicates and all sorts of things running in England as well.
Yes, I mean, not on a grand scale. We used to have 10, 15 in training before, let's say, the last banking crisis. But we run 3 at the moment within syndicates. And they're fortunately going quite nicely.
And David, talking of syndicates in England, you've obviously got syndicates running here in South Africa as well.
Yes, I mean, that's an in and out situation, I have to admit. We have a 15-year history of straight bat racing and Hindlesham racing, and for some of the time that's gone very well with some really nice people, both from overseas and from South Africa. And the South Africans whom we've had involved tend to be first timers, which is kind of what we like doing, and that's fine. However, we all know that the ownership base here, is dwindling at the moment, and we hope it'll revitalise. So we have to soft pedal on all of that at the moment. I was very much in admiration of what Green Street Bloodstock was doing, but I think even they have had to take the foot off the gas a little bit.
Yes.
So let's just give it time to recover and sort out, and then we'll push that button again.
Absolutely, ups and downs, but syndicates can be very good. And
yeah.
We're standing here with this beautiful filly, Attagirl. She's won 1 from 1. She looks to be very exciting for the future, doesn't she?
I certainly hope so. And she's being very good at the moment too. Yeah, she's just turned 3, and we bred her in the Alado project, obviously by Alado, and she got into the Nationals, which is good, and a compliment to her page, which you'll recognise, which is the Arcadina family. The mare was a middle-aged mare when we got her, and she hadn't done very much, a Sports World mare. But we bred her to Alado and produced a colt, still in training now, in the very good hands of Alec Laird, Flying Winger, who's won 4. And then there was a gap, and then this one. She is here with Vaughan Marshall, run 1, won 1. And we'll probably step her right up to 1,800, I expect, but certainly 1,600 next time, and hope.
Yeah, but breeding was something you got into some time ago here in South Africa, and talking of the Alado project, it's been quite successful, hasn't it?
Yes, it has in a number of ways. It's not turned him into a commercial stallion, but I really think that there's only a handful of stallions at the moment here that we can genuinely call commercial. There's a lot of very worthy stallions who sire plenty of winners, and he's one of them, and he's had a very, very good time in the last few months. One should say, or I would say, wouldn't I, that it's not surprising, because he's by Danzig out of a world champion, and not an old family, a family that's still producing Group 1, Group 2, Group 3 winners right now.
Yeah, and he's a lovely looking stallion as well.
He is. He didn't race, and he didn't have the best back end when he was a youngster. But now, obviously a lot of years down the line, you'd say if you want to design a stallion, design him.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've got quite a few stallions here. We've spoken about Alado, obviously, but
Yeah.
we were lucky enough to see Lingari a few weeks ago, and he looks absolutely magnificent as well. He's doing well.
Well, yes, and I hope he'll do better. The thing about Lingari, what we're trying to do is to give him greater exposure, have people more aware, and you know, it's a bit of a battle. But from my point of view, and again, you'd chip in with this, for heaven's sake, you know, he's the son of Indian Ridge. Now, Indian Ridge was the flag bearer for the Irish national stud for how many years? Siring, what, 2 Breeders' Cup winners, other Group 1 winners, yet his top earner was Lingari. So what else do you want? You know.
Well, he's certainly looking really well. When we filmed him last
Yeah.
week, he was running around the paddock and he looks really well. And then, of course, you have Gray's Inn, and at Gray's Inn, he did really well for you.
Well, Gray's Inn's coming to the end of his career. I think it's probably fair to say that being associated with Gray's Inn has almost been better for Allen Bloodlines than for Gray's Inn, because here you have the sire of Legal Eagle and of a Derby winner and of another King of Pain Group 1 winner, who is obviously knocking on a bit now. And again, not particularly commercial. Nevertheless, the fact is that at Book 1, if got into Book 1 by Gray's Inn, still make a few 100,000 at the sales. So what's wrong with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And also on your books is Elusive Fort, another lovely stallion. And there's a story behind that, because he started off in the olden days at Arkansas, and when Craig Carey was there. And
He did, and I have a lot to thank Craig for, because we knew each other pretty well by that time. I'd bought mares in England for Craig, and we had a connection, if you like. Craig was very helpful at the beginning, so I certainly have to say thank you to him. That now is quite some time ago, and Elusive Fort to me has always been a very exciting horse. But you know, you have to admit, we can't just sit here and say everything in the garden is rosy. It isn't. And what we are certain of, as certain as you ever can be, is that things are going to change very soon, because here, after August the 1st, are the first 3-year-olds from the first of his 3 full books, which will almost double the number of runners coming through in the next 3 and 4 and 5 years. So if we are in a bit of a lull at the moment, it is, in my humble opinion, only because he hasn't had a Grade 1 winner recently. He's had them, but he hasn't had one recently. He had the 1-2 in the Poinsettia, but that's as good as it's been in the last few months. And yet there's still a steady stream of winners, and he's in the top dozen stallions as it stands at the moment.
So he's still got every opportunity of getting there.
Absolutely, and I as a breeder, and I know, again, I would say this, wouldn't I, but you know, I have no hesitation in sending a couple of mares to him.
Well, moving forward, you're on a bit of a whirlwind trip at the moment because you've got to get back to the English racing. But in South Africa, the breeding continues. We hope the stallions are going to do well, and of course, the horse is on the course.
Yes. Again, it's a tricky time right now, and one tries to stay positive. And the only thing I would say with an overview, because I'm not going to try and give a detailed overview, everyone is making the same observations, comments, expressing the same hopes. It is fundamentally a question of leadership, and it is fundamentally a question of how, supported in the end by an improving national economy, which I'm sure will happen, maybe not tomorrow, but it's not a large economy, so when it does happen, I think it'll start to happen fairly quickly, and we have to say when, not if. Then we need to be in a position where girls like this are much more familiar to people outside our own bubble. Now, you can't advertise it to the whole population, but for people who can afford an expensive hobby, for people who like animals, for people who are sporting, with or without the gambling, then we need to be saying an awful lot more about it and getting into schools and colleges and talking about the number of people employed. And this whole thing is a career. Look at us.
Absolutely, and South Africa's the place to be. You know what it's like. In summer, we have an absolutely lovely time.
If everything in the horse racing and breeding garden is rosy, there is no better place on the planet. to be practicing it.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Well, David, we wish you all the best for the future. We'll be certainly following this filly Attagirl because she's had a great start to her career.
Yeah,
so
she's
hopefully,
done well, and she's been very patient too.
Yeah, hopefully she will go on and do great things, and we'll hopefully see you back in South Africa a little bit later in the year.
Yeah, very soon. I've got to dash back because either catching one day of my beloved York, I just hate missing it. It is the greatest meeting. Or if I have to miss it, it'll be because we might have a runner at Goodwood on Friday night, and I don't want to miss that either.
Well, that's a very nice position to be in. So
Yeah,
we wish you all the best, and we'll see you back here later in the year.
Thank you, Fee, very much.
And it was really lovely to chat to David this morning. Lovely to have him in Cape Town, if only for a few days. And as I said, we'll be following him closely throughout the next few months. We will catch up again with him towards Christmas when the season really gets going here in Cape Town.
Well, let's touch on the same once again. A son of Tappet, tick the box. A son of Uncle Mo, tick the box. Now we've got another son of Dubawi. Now he's one of the most forefront stallions in Europe at the moment, and his son Erupt is now standing out at Main Chance Farms. Let's find out more from the team out at Main Chance on their very, very exciting stallion, Erupt.
Erupt is standing at Main Chance Farms, and the Breeding to Win team were lucky enough to get some new shots of him this morning. He really is looking fantastic. And with me is Justin Veermark to give us an update. Justin, I must say, he really does look well today.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. He's let down beautifully. It's his second season of covering to come up now, so obviously he's at home now at Main Chance, and I think he's enjoyed the winter a little bit too much because he's carrying a bit of a stomach, but I'm sure he'll tighten up over the next couple of months. But just blown away with his class and his temperament again. You can really get up close and personal with him, and he's an absolute gentleman. He's just nothing phases him, and hopefully he can put some of that class and temperament into his progeny.
Yeah, well, he's superbly bred. He's by Dubawi, and he was outstanding himself and a real versatile individual, and out of a Caerleon mare, so he really is bred beautifully.
Yeah, he is from a great Niarchos family. Obviously, you know, in our first marketing push with him, we mentioned that family quite closely, the family of Holy Roman Emperor and Flying Spur and Costa del Lago, great stallions, Load from Argentina as well, and recently his brother, who was purchased by Godolphin for 575,000 guineas, recently broke his maiden, a horse by Invincible Spirit. So it's getting better all the time, it's developing, and Dubawi is just, you know, he's exceptional. He's broken all records, first sire, British-based sire to crack 100 Group winners, and he's had over 40 Group 1 winners now. And the great thing about Dubawi is he throws them over all distances, from 2-year-olds, precocious horses, to stayers. He had two of the top 2-year-olds in England last year, Tout d'An Hot and Quarto, and this season Tout d'An Hot has won another Group 1 in France recently as a 3-year-old, so he's trained on quite nicely. And just a super sire, and Erupt is very much in the mould of Dubawi. He definitely has a mould, and you know, it can come across medium-sized and a little bit short-coupled, but when you get up close and personal with the horse, you actually realise he stands over a lot of ground, and you know, at his wither, he's quite tall. So he's in at 15.3, he's the exact same size as Dubawi, and all of Dubawi's fantastic racehorse sons in that mould as well. Horses like Postponed, Akid Mufid, we had Moop Tahij, who South Africans know very well because Mark de Kock trained him fantastically in Dubai, and he was a top dirt horse, so they go dirt turf as well. And one of his sons, Night of Thunder, is a pretty new stallion in the UK, and he's throwing out bucket loads of winners as well. So he's in that mould of Dubawi, and hopefully he throws progeny just like that, and they run from 2-year-old to 6-year-old over all sort of distances.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, there's plenty of Dubawi in Erupt, and he's stays, but he also had a phenomenal turn of foot. His acceleration was fantastic, Erupt.
Yeah, you look at his race replays. Gee, he in the big Group 1 that he won in North America, he came from right off the pace. And what I really like about him is the stamina. You know, it's a tricky situation for breeders to be in when you've got to try and get that speed into horses for the sales ring, but then you want stamina in horses so they have racing careers, distinguished racing careers. So he is a horse who won over 2,400 meters in Europe at Group 1, the highest level for that type of category. The same race Ford Wood won. And I don't think people should be off the stamina part of breeding horses yet, because that's what our top race horses need. And Do It Again as a prime example, because he's by twice over, who was a staying horse as well. And Sweet Virginia, his mother, won over 3,000 meters. So on paper, you couldn't get more stamina if you tried. Yet he sold for over R1 million as a yearling, and he's a champion racehorse. So he was a sales horse and a racehorse. So we got to breed for stamina, and he came to Main Chance hopefully to follow on from Silvano, you know, and I think he's got a brilliant chance of doing that. He's got a great diverse group of shareholders. His first mares that he covered, that first crop, there's some really distinguished names on that list, and it'll be the same the second year around.
Yeah, he had a time form rating of 121, so he was right up there, and he obviously raced in the States, he raced in France and Japan.
Yeah, he was a globetrotter. He's a tough type of horse, the type of horse Andreas loves, which was a good sell for him to stand him at Main Chance, because similar to Silvano, he was a globetrotter, won Group 1s all around the world. He went and raided races all over the place, and when you see his temperament, you can see why he was such a good traveller, because nothing phases him.
Yeah, something a bit special. And what sort of service fee are we looking at?
This season he is down to 30,000, which is all live foal guarantee, which I think is very, very fair in the current market. Obviously, we've seen a bit of a situation the last few years where our mare numbers have dropped spectacularly. Our sales prices coming down a little bit as well, and the stallion services didn't quite match that drop that the prices were achieving in the sales ring. So we brought him down to 30,000, which I think when you see the other stallions in and around that type of fee, with his pedigree and his and the horse he is, his race performance, he's very, very competitive at that price. So we've already had close on 30 services sold to him, and obviously he's got a full book of shareholders. The Niarchos family bought a lot of mares for him this season to support him as well, so they'll be sending 10 or 12 of their own, and he's going to have a really, really solid book and high quality mares as well, which is very important.
You know Erupt well from your work for the Niarchos family. Why do you think his pedigree is so special?
Well, of course, he's by Dubawi out of a very distinguished Niarchos family. So one thing for sure is that horses with great pedigrees who had Group 1 form they have a big edge when it comes to standing at stud in some of the smaller jurisdictions like South Africa. So in a way, I would expect him to be kind of more of a Silvano type of horse. I mean, he went 1.5 miles. He was very effective at 1.25 miles, but he was a proper Group 1 horse and a Group 1 winner. And you know, being by Dubawi, you've always got the possibility that that's going to speed him up a little bit. But in any event, he's a horse that we think is going to make a big impression down there.
Yes, I was going to say, do you think, given the distance he won his races over, he's shown enough speed to become a versatile horse?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think these the true Group 1 horses, when you put them in these smaller jurisdictions, this horse could sire 5 furlong 2-year-old winners, and it wouldn't be any kind of a surprise because class trumps everything. And this horse had the class.
Erupt the outer, then Wake Forest, Idaho and Glebe make their moves, and then Danish Dynaformer and Protectionist as they come down the stretch. Here goes Dartmouth to join World Approval, and on the outside Erupt making a line of 4 as Wake Forest. Erupt has done just that, and it is Erupt coming away Erupt in front and is drawing off. Dartmouth in second, and they're not catching Erupt. Erupt has been tremendous to win by a length.
And he's got such a great pedigree. I mean, Dubawi is going to be a very successful sire of sires. There's no question about it. And with a pedigree like his, these horses that have, these stallions that go to stud, that have the great pedigrees and are out of the good mares, they do have an edge. It does count. You're looking for horses that will add class to these mares, and the most important thing about Erupt is he is going to add class because he had the class himself.
When you think along the breeding lines in South Africa, you think of Dynasty, you think of Captain L, you think of the likes of Silvano as well. Now, two of those mentioned sires are very prominent in one sire's pedigree, and that's Horizon. He's by Dynasty, he's out of the same family as Silvano, and he was an imposing yearling at sale time as well, reaching 5.2 million rand as a yearling. He's got the looks, he's got the pedigree, and he's standing for his first season out at Hemel and Ardent this year.
Horizon undoubtedly boasts one of the finest pedigrees in the South African stud book. He has settled in very well at David Brown's Hemel and Ardent stud. His price tag as a yearling is a true indication of his superior looks and athletic ability, and he is letting down really well. He has two sisters currently in training, and they are performing with distinction. Both Santa Clara and Sanskrit are feature race prospects and have added much value black type to his female line. 3-year-old Santa Clara showed her promise by winning the KRA Fillies Guineas at Greyville in convincing fashion. In that race, she beat home the highly regarded Front and Centre, as well as recent Will Avington 2000 Grade 1 winner Silvano's Pride.
And Santa Clara's clear out here. Front and Centre's running late, but Santa Clara will win it.
2-year-old Sanskrit has already won once and placed twice from 4 runs. All her races and distances well short of what is expected to be her best, and she sure looks to be an exciting prospect once she goes around the turn. With blood of both Dynasty and Silvano, Horizon has appealed to leading breeders in the Western Cape. Dynasty's son Liege recently won the Grade 3 Lonsdale Stirrup Cup. On the same day, Silvano tasted double Group 1 success with Silvano's Pride and Hawam winning the Will Avington and Daily News respectively.
If this horse had been in England, he probably would have raced as a 3-year-old and gone to stud. That's probably what should have happened to him here. But they tried to race him on because they had the ability. Anybody who doesn't throw 40 grand after him has got to be crazy. You know, he must be worth that in anybody's book.
Yeah, you can see why he was such an expensive horse, and when Mike Bass picks them, they're going to be good.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was speaking to Carol Bash yesterday, and she said, yeah, when Mike picks them, he knows they're going to make it. And regardless of the fact he didn't win a Grade 1, he was terribly unlucky on the track.
Yes, he was, Fee, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he ran the fastest last 400 in the July, and that tells you volumes. Canis was saying he was 2 lengths off them coming into the straight, so very, very unlucky horse. His price certainly wouldn't have been what it is now if he had won a Group 1.
Horizon is the property of a syndicate, and there are few shares available. We believe he is great value at a service fee of 8,000 Rand, the nomination being 2,000 Rand and live foals 6,000 Rand. Be sure to book your mares early.
But Heavenly Blue goes to stud, and he's going to be residing out at Ascot Stud in Port Elizabeth with Ashley Parker. A beautiful son of Snitzel. He's grey, he's imposing, and he's certainly got the Group 1 track record behind him as well, and he was always very highly regarded by trainer Mike de Kock. Let's find out more from Ashley Parker and his new sire, Heavenly Blue.
It's Heavenly Blue, who's 2 to 3 lengths clear of Elsahem, and it's going to provide Mike de Kock with a classic double at Turpentine. Heavenly Blue has won the SA Classic 3 length. What a run!
Well, that's a wrap from this edition of Breeding to Win, the Stallion Special. And we'll bring you another exact type show next week as well, with 12 or 13 additional sires. And we look forward to updating all breeders, or even armchair breeders, on what their fancy may be with the upcoming season. Obviously a great time of the year. The foals are dropping. You get to see some of the progeny of some of last year's early sires as well. And we look forward to bringing you some of those pictures in the not too distant future as well. Stay tuned next week for part 2 of the Stallion Special, brought to you by Breeding to Win.